More internationals mean more injuries for Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. Gabriel Martinelli has an issue and surprise, surprise, Tomiyasu's got another one too. The international break is nearly over, thankfully. Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast with me, Harry Symeou. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, hope you are all well on this Tuesday morning. It's cloudy, it's miserable, it's glum here in North London. And yeah, I've been feeling a little bit under the weather, hence the lack of a podcast yesterday. So I just wanted to apologize for that. I did plan on doing one, but I just woke up with a throat like sandpaper. I knew it was coming. I knew it was creeping up on me. And I had a radio show yesterday, which I barely got through. Don't know how I did it, to be honest. When I got home, I sat down to have some dinner with my wife, and she was talking to me, and I said, I'm not being rude, but I just haven't got the capacity to talk anymore. I was all talked out for the day, and so I decided to leave it rather than do any further damage. I am feeling a lot better today. We are getting there. We are on the path to recovery, to full recovery. So hopefully sooner rather than later, my throat will clear up. Hopefully by the weekend when I'm working, because yeah, you can't be a podcaster slash broadcaster slash commentator without a voice. It's impossible. So yeah, big problem. Big problem. But anyway, we've got lots to get into today, as always. Even when it is an international break, there's always talking points. There's always something to sink our teeth into. And on today's show, we're going to talk about Martinelli. We're going to talk a little bit about William Saliba. And we're going to discuss Takehiro Tomiyasu, who, according to reports, has suffered yet another injury problem, which is bad news. But I think it's something that we need to have a wider conversation around, because I, for one, I don't want to say I'm getting sick of it, because I think that's unfair. Like, it's not like Takehiro Tomiyasu turns up every week with the intention of getting injured, and I'm sure he does everything within his power to stay as fit as he possibly can. But obviously this is an ongoing thing, and I just don't know that we're ever going to get what we need out of Takehiro Tomiyasu, because of how frequently he's breaking down with these injuries. So we'll get into all of that. We'll take some of you guys' thoughts from the live chat as well. If I mute to cough, apologies. It probably will happen. I can feel the tingle already. Here we go. So you have to bear with me as we slowly make our way through today's episode. But let's start with the Japanese international then, Takehiro Tomiyasu. According to reports, and to be clear, these reports have not been confirmed by the club just yet, but it seems as though he's picked up another problem. According to this report, it's a knee issue that he would have suffered during his short appearance against Southampton. Of course, he returned to action that day. Look, I think if this was anybody else, I'd be saying he's been out for a while. He's been nursing a problem. He's slowly been building himself up, but there's nothing quite like a real game, right, to test where you're actually at physically. And what I would normally say, as I say, when it comes to anybody else, is after a long time on the sidelines, a small setback is natural. And I wouldn't be too concerned about it. And I'd be talking about the need to support the player and the need to look after him properly. And obviously those things apply with any Arsenal player, right? So I'm not saying that we don't need to support Takehiro Tomiyasu, or that the club shouldn't be doing everything within their power to get him back fit and available again as soon as possible. But the more you hear of Tomiyasu breaking down, the more you hear of him struggling, and the more you hear of issues cropping up when we need him, the more you start to think, does this guy actually have a future at Arsenal Football Club? Can we actually rely on this guy going forward? And if not, then we have to have a serious conversation about his future moving forward. I know we gave him sort of a better contract not that long ago. I think there's a minimum of 2 years still left on that. It was interesting because what Arsenal did was give him a bigger salary, and what Arsenal did was kind of improve the deal that he was on, but they were also very careful about giving him a long-term contract. And that's nothing to do with Takehiro Tomiyasu's age. That's to do with this. It's to do with the constant injury problems that he suffers, and the fact that he's just unavailable for too much of any given season. And it's not a one-off. It's not a bad period that he's going through in terms of injuries. This is an ongoing theme, and this has become a part of what Takehiro Tomiyasu is for Arsenal. And unfortunately, when you're competing at the highest level, there needs to be a ruthlessness. There needs to be an acknowledgement of when something's not working, and you can't dwell on it. You can't sit on a player because you think that he's a good lad and he's good for the dressing room. If he's not bringing you the same value as others, and he's not able to contribute in the way that you want him to because of fitness issues, at some point you need to look elsewhere. And at some point you need to think about clearing room in the squad for someone that can come in and that can give you all of the things that you need. Tomiyasu, when he's available, I've got no complaints. Can play with both feet, can play right back and left back, can play centre back, super versatile, really committed. One of the best 1v1 defenders I believe that we have at the club. Very physical in terms of his height and size, and gives us a lot in that sense. As a player, I've got no issue with Takehiro Tomiyasu. But if I don't get to see that player, and that player isn't able to help us in achieving our goals and ambitions as a football club because he's never fit enough, then you've got to take the decision, Arsenal. And it might sound ruthless and it might sound cutthroat, but I really do feel like we're getting to that point. In fact, I would argue that we already reached that point a while back with Takehiro Tomiyasu. And even after having reached that point, we still rewarded him with a better contract because obviously Arsenal do think that he's a useful player and do believe that he can offer plenty. But if these injury problems keep coming up, then you've got to rethink that at some point. And I think that point is very, very soon for Arsenal as far as they're concerned. So, yeah, we'll see. Let me know your thoughts on him in the chat and I'll pick up some of your comments. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying. The Masked Cannon says, I think at this point we should think about selling Tomiyasu. John Daly's asking for a list of importance of the defenders. And he says, unfortunately, Tomiyasu is towards the bottom of that list. He says that Kivior isn't as good at defending as Tomiyasu. But if you're never available, then how can Kivior be below Tomiyasu on that list? That's a really good video idea or podcast idea. I'll write it down. Ranked, I'm going to call it. Defenders and their importance. It's a good idea. I'll definitely try and do that at some point. Brett says, love that I finally caught a part of a live show. There's a multitude of quality content out there, but you and yours is definitely my favourite. Always reasoned, always objective, and pitched perfectly, for me at least. A massive thank you and all the best to you and your family. Thank you so much, Brett. Really, really appreciate that, mate. Really, really appreciate that. And thanks for joining us. Let's move on then to our next story. Let's talk Gabriel Martinelli. It is going to be a brief episode today. As you can tell, I've had to pause twice already, 7 minutes into cough. So we're probably not going to go for too long. But I do want to give you the stories and my thoughts on the stories that I set out to bring you at the start of the episode. So let's talk now Gabriel Martinelli, who has picked up a calf issue whilst on international duty with Brazil. It was confirmed by the Brazilian Football Federation that he felt a pain there on the right calf. And they've confirmed after a scan that there's a small muscle edema in the area and he's undergoing treatment for that right now. They're in constant contact with the Arsenal medical team. I think it's pronounced edema, I don't know. Someone I'm sure will know far better than me. But I looked up what that is because I wanted to get an idea of how serious this may or may not be. And it says that an edema is a swelling caused by too much fluid in the muscles. So could it just be a case of draining fluid? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works at that level. I've had fluid drained from my knee before, but I'm not an elite athlete that was expected to turn up and play a game the following week. So I don't know how big this is, how significant this is. But to be honest, generally, I'm just getting fed up of these international breaks and all the problems that they bring us and cause us. And I know, it's the same for every club. I think there's a wider conversation that needs to be had about the football calendar and schedule. We've said that before, but I do think we're beyond the point of it being a joke now. Like, it's really, really ridiculous now. We got players over in South America that are due to play a game on Thursday. Like, what time are they going to get back on Friday? And then you want them to line up on Saturday and play a game. Like, to me, it's just mad that we're putting players through this. And at some point, something has to give. Because where we're at today is a place where the level and the quality of the football that we're watching is suffering. It is, because the best players aren't available, and the best players need to be rested, and the best players aren't at 100% because we are spreading them too thin. How can they possibly be in peak condition or in their best shape to play the biggest games when they're being sent all across the world playing games that in truth don't really matter? I mean, the Nations League is something that I was for, actually, at the start when it was introduced. I thought it's a way of putting more competitive international football, because one of my big gripes with international football has always been that outside of the tournaments there were too many friendlies, they're not enjoyable, nothing's riding on them, no one cares. But then the Nations League was supposed to fix that, and it has to a degree. Like, it means there's something up for grabs, but it's still not valued highly enough to constitute the running of our players into the ground. And so where I thought it might help, actually, I don't think it has. And I think what it's done is it's created an environment in which international managers are now less sensible because they've got something riding on the games. And it just makes the whole thing even more stressful and strenuous. And you can see that now with players going down like flies. There's 2 more we've heard of in the last couple of days. Not great at all. Final thing I wanted to talk about on today's show before I leave you guys, because I'm struggling. Bloody hell. I regret starting this pod live now. I should have recorded it and then I could have cut all the coughs out. But anyway, the last thing I want to talk about is the reaction to a clip that's going around of William Saliba. I'm sure you've all seen it. He was playing yesterday for France against Belgium, and he slipped over when going back to make a challenge. I think it was on Lois Openda. And the reaction to that has been massive. Like people saying, Saliba, making a huge error. Saliba's finished. Best defender in the world. My arse, blah, blah, blah. You've seen all of that stuff from rival fans and all the rest of it. It's cool, guys. Don't worry about it. You don't need to rate William Saliba because we do. Real Madrid, hands off. Don't worry about it. Leave him to us. It's just funny to me because where people want to make that into a meme and something to laugh about, actually the fact that it is such a big deal and has exploded the way it has on social media tells you the opposite. Tells you that Saliba is so bloody good that when he makes a mistake like that, which isn't a bit of poor anticipation or bad reading of the game or, making the wrong decision when confronted with a defensive situation. No, this is William Saliba simply losing his footing, which can happen to anyone. But the fact that it's been turned into such a big deal just highlights, doesn't it, how good he is, how important he is right now, and the level that he's performing at, that you're having to nitpick to find mistakes. And when you do, they go viral and turn into this big deal because they're such a rarity. That's where we are with William Saliba right now. And so, although I saw it and I thought, oh, that doesn't look good, and he won't want to watch that back, there's a part of me that looks at it and goes, well, the fact that it's been made into such a big deal speaks volumes for how he's progressed as a player and the regard that he's now held in by the wider footballing world. So just wanted to get that in because I've seen some supporters of rival clubs. I know Liverpool supporters in particular, friends of mine, who have got quite precious about him being compared to Virgil van Dijk. And some of those guys were the people that sent it to me in a group chat as soon as they saw it. And I just think to myself, all right, cool, whatever. It's fine. You don't have to rate him. Haters are going to hate. You don't have to rate William Saliba. We know what he is because we watch him every single week. And we enjoy watching him every single week. And we're buzzing with what we've seen from him in terms of his development in recent years. But yeah, final point on that. The fact that it's been blown up the way it has speaks volumes for where William Saliba is at a player today, that him slipping over is the biggest deal in the world, seemingly. Obviously, it's an international break and it's slow in terms of news and talking points and all the rest of it, which probably plays a part in this too. But at the same time, it's been blown way out of proportion. Guys, thank you all so much. Sorry for the really short episode, but as you can tell, I'm really struggling. Hopefully one more day and we'll be back to normal. Remember to leave a like on the video. If not for me, then for my poor throat that is suffering. Please like. Subscribe to the channel as well. If you haven't done so already, it really does help. If you're listening on audio, leave us a review, especially on Apple Podcasts where we lost the load. That really helps us too. And Patreon. Check us out on patreon.com/The Chronicles of Aguna. In the absence of a game to build up or a game to cover at the weekend that's just gone, we're going to bring you another In Focus episode. Sorry. Focusing on a topic or player, and that'll be with you in the next couple of days. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Goodbye.